Right, okay, so Digital Cafe. What's it all about? Well, again, hopefully you know me because I've been here previously, or if not, basically I actually run a business up in Sheffield, South Yorkshire called Data Mills, and Digital Cafe is our sort of education part of it. And the idea behind it is we're trying to make it sort of fairly fun-packed and informative. But again, because we've got these smaller numbers, it does allow for discussion. It does allow for open conversation. So hopefully that's what we'll experience this morning. We do have a YouTube channel, and we also have LinkedIn, and we've also been doing a little bit on Facebook as well. So again, we've got 27 followers on our LinkedIn profile. So if you're not following us, please join in. We do have the main website itself, and again, we've just linked to the up and coming events through to the Eventbrite booking page. And in doing so, what we are doing is we're recording these sessions, which then allows us for all the content that was being created to be put up there. So we literally about a week ago just added the one from last week, which was Rick from Be More Social. And again, if you haven't seen Rick before, I would seriously go and check out the video on the YouTube thing. So literally just Google Digital Cafe Network and you should find it. And if you're not subscribed, please do. Also, the next coming events, if you literally Google Digital Cafe Network, what it will do, it will show you where we would normally have a face-to-face meeting, which is obviously a bit of a long way to come, Vicky, if you ever do want to join us face-to-face. But apart from that, you can see the next events coming up, and it also links through to the YouTube channel from there. So this morning, obviously, we're going to look at emails and how to get problems fixed with that. And next time round, we've also got one on how to get your website working for you from a marketing perspective. And we've got another one, a new one to our portfolio, which is going to be in a couple of months' time in May, which is about Google My Business. Have you ever sort of put your company name into Google, and then on the right-hand side, you see that panel where it comes up with your name and your company, and most people don't utilize that to the best of their ability. So the idea is to look at that and how it can be used and why use that, because obviously it's a Google service, and obviously Google promotes itself better than anybody else. And so this morning, we are going to cover emails, and effectively we've started another strand to what we do, which is called the Email Company. But before we go into that, does anyone remember this from last time? Helen, did you go down to the showcase event that we did?
No, I was in. So I've been to the cafe, but I didn't go to the showcase. I mean, just to say, to give some feedback, actually, I much prefer the online, just because I find that I really struggle to hear in that cafe because it's got lots of concrete and pipes and everything. So there's lots of noise bouncing around everywhere. And with my tinnitus, I just really struggle. So online's better than that.
We'll certainly look at those moving forward. So yeah, cool. So this was an event that we did effectively last year. So we have been actually asked if we would be willing to get involved in or organising another one in possibly September, October time. So it's still in the planning stages, but we might do another one. So again, if you hear anything or people are interested, please like and support it if you're able to. So this morning is not Claire Froggatt, it's actually myself. It's one of the slides I forgot to update yesterday. But in doing so, what we're going to be looking at is effectively why your emails, why they get into junk and not into your inboxes, and why we're going to look at how to fix those type of things. So this is where we'll use the chat section. So if you haven't already, if you click on the bottom of your screen, there should be a chat box, which will then put something in the right-hand panel of your screen. And the first question I've got really is, what problems have you got, or what problems have you seen with email? Obviously, the biggest one that most people seem to flag is the fact that email gets stuck in people's junk on the receiving side. So yeah, so if you want to fire the chat up, and let's see what we get. Excellent. Time to get useful, engaging content. Okay, do you want to explain a little bit more on that one, Helen?
I'm trying to very much do much more regular emails, but I guess when you've got a mailing list rather than talking to individuals, it's trying to think, well, trying to give people what they want and what will interest them and keep them engaged. And I guess what I didn't put on that, the other thing, I guess, is the lack of, for every email I send out, which I send to about 600 people, I might get one actual reply. And then that might lead to some work, but you never know really whether it's come from the email or not. So I guess it's a bit like you feel like you're just sending it out into outer space and there's no feedback.
Okay, so very much. Okay, so very much around marketing emails and engagement and things like that. Okay, that's helpful. Okay, Teresa, you put one of emails not arriving in recipients' email addresses. Yeah, okay. And then obviously, Vicky, you put my emails go to the junk folder, even when it's not, even if it's in reply to the email that's sent. Right, okay, that's probably what we're going to be concentrating more on of that type of problem. So again, let's get to...
I do want that too as well.
Cool. Right. Well, we're all the right people in the right places. That's a good start.
Yeah, good.
So if I swap the presentation over and scribble back to the beginning, does help. Right, okie doke. So emails as they should be working. That's what we're trying to get an answer to, and getting your problems fixed. So this is the type of thing hopefully we're going to go through. So firstly, what's the issue with free? What is business email? Deliverability and how to improve it. How the systems talk together. A whitelist, a blacklist, and we'll then spend some time on how to fix it with that knowledge that we've taken on before. And then we're also going to be looking at the other side of your inbox. I'll explain that a bit more. So we all love our email. We love our email so much that in the business world, business accounts equate for 108 billion emails sent and received each day. So that's a heck of a lot of emails floating around the internet. And again, average 25% of people spend their time answering and receiving emails. And then we've also got the thing where 92% of adults use email in their daily lives, and obviously 62% say daily on average. So it's really, really powerful. And it's the core to what the business community uses. If it's not a telephone for speaking, it's an email. And obviously the two go in hand, because you sort of make a conversation on the phone, and then that moves into sending an email of confirmation, and then it might be a follow-up phone call a bit later on. So, okay, what I'm referring to is the bit before and after the @ sign. So you can see there's lots of different email providers out there. Obviously, we've got your Gmails, you've got your Hotmails, you've got your Yahoos. So those are probably some of the more common ones. There are others out there who provide a free service. The problem with those is that if you want something nice, sharp and snappy before the @ bit, you're restricted. So you can't have hello@gmail.com. Someone's already got it. So you end up having odd emails with some letters, numbers and characters, which doesn't really mean anything. And hence that's why you sometimes get there was a situation once where someone was applying for a job and their email address was it fuzzybunny@gmail.com. It was something along those lines. So I think it had some numbers in there somewhere. But again, it doesn't come across as very professional. And it's free. And because they're free, they're great for starting with, but they don't give a professional a view of your business. So, okay, so I've started a thing called the Email Company. And in doing so, I wanted an email that was friendly and professional. So I was able to choose hello@theemailcompany.co.uk. So the bit after is referred to as the domain name. The domain name is effectively the bit you can choose. Now, there are different extensions. You've got .co.uk's. So effectively, what is in a name? Well, there's quite a lot, really. So when I was choosing a name, I could have had the emailcompany.store.org.uk, the email.company, email.company.tech. So there's variations out there, and there's loads more choices than that. But the question is your email going to get there? So what we're going to do a little bit later on is I'm going to do a little question. We're going to do a little demo of, does your email actually get there? We're going to check it for its spamminess. This is quite good if you are going to consider looking at doing a newsletter. So before we go into anything to do with newsletters or along those lines, we're just literally going to do an experiment to see if your email will actually reach its destination. So what will happen, we'll score it out of 10. And obviously, if you're in the upper range, your boat will get to shore. If not, it might get lost at sea and your email will never see the light of an inbox. So do I have a volunteer who would like to try this experiment? Okay, well, we'll go with Helen. Great. So what I'm going to do then, Helen, this is where I need to move screens around and stop screen shares. I'm going to put an email address into the chat. And then if you can send an email to that email address, and then we'll check that it actually gets there. Wow, that's good. That is very good. So your problem is not the ability of sending.
Well,
I guess something the way that
normally when I send my newsletters out, though, I use MailChimp. So would that make a difference?
That could make a difference, yes. And I'll explain why. Okay, so you've got these things here, which are referring to the sending server. I'm going to touch on this in a bit, and also the DKIM bit as well and things. Okay, well, that's one of your, because you are not using what I was calling business email, you're using Gmail. There's a lot of stuff that's been put in place by Gmail, which in this case is going to be irrelevant to yourself. Okay, if you were using a business email address, with which I was talking about earlier, the bit where you've chosen your own company name at the end. So like Vicky has vicky@yourweddingfriend.co.uk. So I'll be interested, Vicky, if you'd be willing to give this a go to see what results you get. So basically, Google have actually done quite a lot of the bits behind the scenes because you're using their domain already. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I'm using Gmail. Is that what you mean?
Because you're using Gmail, yes.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do, Vicky, I'm just going to get a different email address for that one. So I'll take that one. I'll put this one into the chat if all goes to plan. Okay, so there's your email. If you could send one to that then, Vicky, that would be great. Because effectively, where Google have actually done a lot of the work for you with regards to SPF headers and trusted sender lists and everything else, they are massive. And because they are massive, they've all done it. but you don't get the flexibility of choosing the company, the bit after the at, and the bit before it. You can only choose the bit before the at. So this is why, in your case, you've been restricted to the name that you've got before the at google.com. Where obviously Vicky's case, she's got Vicky at yourweddingplannerfriend.co.uk. So if I now, have you done that, Vicky? Are we ready to? You're on mute, by the way.
It's taking a moment to leave.
Okay.
I've got the whirling circle of doom going on at the moment. Not responding.
That's technology for you.
My poor little computer's going, too many things.
I find the problem is when your computer does that quicker than your brain goes too many things, and they're supposed to be better than my brain.
Yeah, it still hasn't sent yet, sorry.
That's okay. Wayne, do you want to give this a go in a bit?
Yeah, fine. Send it through.
Okay, we'll just get the because you've got a domain-based email address. So
yes,
it's gone, Vicky.
Yep.
Okay, let's see what results we get this time. Right. Okay. So this is the type of things that sometimes can go off, and in doing so, this is what we're going to be looking at. So we've got a 6.8 for yourself. So if you want to make a mental note of that one. And whilst we go down to the bottom of here, it says you're not fully authenticated, and that's part of what the issues are. Okay. So that server, it says it doesn't allow that server to use your address. Okay. And you don't have a DKIM bit. So hence that's the bit that we're going to be looking at a little bit. Okay. What that actually means and why it's important. Okay, so let's go back to, let's give Wayne a new address. So let's take, oops. No, don't want LastPass, go away. And go back to the chat, which is on my other screen.
Am I using the TQN one or the bottom one?
No, I've just posted a new one into the chat there, Wayne. I think what we've pointed out is that Helen has actually got an advantage, that because she's using Google, that means that some of the work around this type of thing is done for her. But what you haven't got, Helen, is obviously the professional looking email, and you haven't got the flexibility of what you put at the end or at the beginning. But as you'll now see, that actually some of these things are in your advantage if you're happy with that, because when you look at some of these type of issues, there are things that need to be done. Okay, so this is yours then, Wayne, is it?
Yes.
Excellent. So you've done your homework.
Yes.
And again, it looks like yours is sort of powered by Gmail as well. Yeah.
It is. We have Google Business Docs, but obviously our own domain name.
Excellent. Good. Okay. So where do we go from here? Let me go back to sharing my slides again. So if it will pick up from where I left off would be helpful. Right. So this is how emails generally work, or this is the way that they used to work. Top left-hand corner is yourself, and your computer then sends an email to an email server, which then sends it out. It goes out to the big fluffy internet. It pops out the other end because obviously you've got the address itself. It then gets received by the other system, and then the user receives it. That's how simple it used to be, and that's the good old days. Sadly, the world has got a little bit more, we don't trust things as much as that, or should I say, it gets exploited. So, a blacklist or a whitelist? Are you a trusted person? Would you trust this guy? Good question. But effectively, there are well over 100 different blacklists. And in doing so, it's trying to make sure that your number, because everything on the internet works on numbers, okay? So when you type in www.theemailcompany.co.uk, that looks at a system which then gives it a number. That number is the computer on the internet where my website is held. Emails are very similar. The email system obviously has a number. So again, these things, these blacklists are sort of saying, these numbers, are they trusted numbers or are they not? So if you've got your own domain name, so like in Vicky's case or Wayne's case, and you try and send 1,000 emails all in one go, some blacklists will go, oh, there seems to be a very unusually high number of emails coming from that email address, and it seems to be happening every hour, and it has been doing it for the last 3 or 4 hours. There must be something wrong. We'll put it on a blacklist. So therefore, you can get blacklisted just because you're sending too many emails in one go. Likewise, sometimes you can actually get a computer which gets a virus. And obviously, viruses like to replicate and spread. And obviously, the best way of doing it, why not send it out on an email to somebody else? So again, that's the other side of the inbox type of thing we're looking at. So one of the problems of stuff not getting into people's inboxes is they might be on a blacklist. Okay, if you're not on a blacklist, how can you actually improve your delivery? Well, by actually having a whitelist. So what is a whitelist? Well, effectively, it's a way of proving that you are who you say you are. So going back to everything working on the internet on numbers, we've got a thing called the domain name, which is the bit after the @ sign. That is, if you can think about the old-fashioned phone book, the old yellow pages or the private ones or whatever, you look up Mr. Smith, and Mr. Smith lived at a certain address, and that was his telephone number. So you got a name that equals a number. You could also look at the other way around. You could look at somebody's telephone number and then look across, and it would tell you who it was. So that's what, like, you'd call that a reverse lookup. These type of things is what happens on the internet. And again, this is where these are like phone book type things. It's a sort of a name equals a number equals a name. And this is what forms the whitelist. So it's referred to as the trusted senders list, or an SPF record. And that's the technical term, is the SPF. But that's all it is in reality. It's a trusted senders list. Okay. So in this particular case, in this example, this person's using Microsoft Office 365. And Microsoft basically tell you that if you are using our system and you are using your own domain name, you need to add an SPF record, which says include the bit in red at the top, which basically says trust Microsoft. Now, can you see where it says the word all, and I've got a little red minus in front of it? Okay. That can change. So quite often, a little red minus on your SPF record tells the receiving server, if it comes from anywhere else, don't trust it. It's a hard fail. Just get rid of the others. Only trust what comes from Microsoft. So it's you'd call that very strict. Okay. Now, say that particular person then sort of says, oh, actually, I want to start using emails from another system. What do I need to do? Okay. So in this particular case, a good example is this person wants to use MailChimp. Okay. So MailChimp also sends out emails as your domain, as yourself. In doing so, we've got to add their email system to that trusted senders list. So what I've done on the bottom of the screen there, the bit in red is effectively what MailChimp uses for sending out mail. So if we add that all together, what we've got is trust Microsoft, trust MailChimp. And then you've got this little bit with a minus all at the end. Now you can put a little squiggle in front, and that's a sort of maybe let it in, maybe report it. If you put a question mark instead, what you're doing at that point is to sort of say, ignore it anyway, just let it in. So it's really not, it's sort of saying, look, these are the two sending systems, but you don't really need to use it. Where if you really want to tighten things down, you put a -all. So that's the trusted senders list. Hopefully that makes some sense. So what's happening here now, going from the original example of going from point A to point B, and it was very straightforward. In this world, we're going to send an email from A to E. But what happens is it goes to the first server, which sends it out. That then goes out onto the internet, which in this case is C, which is going to be a sort of a spam protection system. So it's protecting the receiving email. If it passes certain criterias, it will then pass it on to E, and that's when they get their email. But what's happening in and around the C bit in the middle is it's looking at this trusted senders list, and it's looking at a thing called a DKIM record, which we'll touch on in a minute. So that's what's going off, and that's why if you haven't got an SPF record, and I think that's what is happening with yours, Vicky, you haven't got an SPF record, that's why it said on that little thing that we did, it said that your sending system, which is point B on this thing, isn't authorized for your domain. So that's one thing that you'd need to put on your little to-do list. Okie doke. Okay, so fingerprints. There's one thing sort of saying, hey, trust Microsoft, hey, trust MailChimp or others that you might be using. But how do you know that they are valid? How do you know that they're real? Because what's happening in the world of the internet these days, in the world of email, is don't trust anyone. Don't trust. Originally, when the internet first started up in the mid-90s, everything was free, everything was good, it was a rosy world, and everyone expected the internet to be this brilliant place where everyone would work and collaborate, and it would all be a nice, trustworthy place. We're all human, and because we've become more and more online, all the human problems have come online with fraud and identity theft and everything else, and this is why these walls of protection have been going up, and this is why it causes the problem. So a fingerprint. Okay, we've all got our own fingerprint. So I could send a letter to you, Vicky, or to Helen, or to Wayne, and if I put my fingerprint on the envelope seal, and you had already got a copy of my fingerprint, you could hold the two together and go, yeah, that's from Andrew. Yes, I could sign it, but it just gives you that extra level of confidence that it's come from the right place. So it's effectively like sharing keys. Can you both get in at the same time? So realistically, the sending server in this case on the left is sending an email to the server on the right. So as well as looking at is it trusted? Are you on the trusted senders list? Okay. Do the fingerprints match? Does the key thing? Who's got the key? So what then happens is you can then, once you've got your thing called the DKIM in place, which is this fingerprint bit, and you've got this trusted senders bit in place, you can then apply a thing called a DMARC policy. Now, this is when you're sort of really getting to the next level. You are telling the receiving server that if I've got a DKIM, if I've got an SPF, pass my email. So you're sort of saying you can set a policy on how things are received, and if something hasn't got an SPF, it hasn't got a DKIM, it can actually be rejected. So this is partly on the incoming side on your system, where you can actually set policies on how you receive mail coming in, as well as they are etc. So that's how it works basically. And if you've got a business email address which has got the DKIM and got the SPF, which is the fingerprint and the trusted senders list, great. Hopefully your email is now going to be approved and get through. So obviously, Wayne, your case, what you've done, you've taken a domain name, rhoda.co.uk, and you've entrusted your sending to a big corporation called to Google, and they've done quite a lot of work behind the scenes and asked you to put these records in place to your domain name that allows their system to work. Obviously, Helen's case there, Helen, you're going straight to Google. You're not using a domain name. You're just using Google itself. So you don't need to do any of this unless you change away from them. And then obviously, Vicky, in your case, you're the one who hasn't got the SPF, and I don't think you've got a DKIM either. And that's where I think some of your emails are getting a little bit lost. All right. So that's what we need to do. So this checklist. So we need to make sure you're not on a blacklist. You've got a trusted sender identity saying this is the system that sends on my behalf. You've got the fingerprint. And then that's one side of, that's the sort of sending outside of things. Okay. So what happens on the other side? Well, when you're trying to rectify some of these problems, the biggest stumbling block is getting access to the domain name. So yes, in my case, I've got the emailcompany.co.uk. I've registered that with a thing called a registrar. That registrar also then has the ability to allow me to make changes to these signposts, to these pointers behind the domain. So firstly, where did you get your domain from? Maybe you've registered it yourself. Maybe you've trusted one of the bigger providers. Maybe it's your web designer who's done it. And maybe you started a business and went, hey, look, I just need a website. Let's get going. You've gone to one of these companies. They've gone, here you are, register a domain name with us. We'll give you some web hosting. Oh, by the way, have some email. And this is when some of the things aren't aligned. So the bit that we need to get to is the bit, as you can see on the right-hand thing on there, it says yourhooverdomain.com. You've got a thing called an MX record, and it says where it says add records. That's the type of place you need to be able to have access to. So the question is, who's got it and where is it? That's the first bit of Sherlock homework that needs to be done. If you've got it, then great. A way of just double checking if you've got some of these records in place is you can go to this website, you can put your domain name in, click on search, and what it will then give you is a result similar to what we've got on the right hand side there. So if you look at the third line up on that right hand side, it's saying it's a little thing called a TXT record, and as you can see it says SPF. That's the trusted senders bit. That's the bit, if you haven't got it, then you need to add it. If you've got it, but you've got other systems that send as you need to then include those sending systems. And that's the trusted sender bit, sort of put right. Okay. Not everybody knows what sends on their behalf. So in your case, Helen, did you say that you were using MailChimp?
Yeah.
Okay. So your SPF record, if it's the default one that comes from Google, it will probably just say trust Google. It won't have the trust MailChimp. So when you're actually sending from MailChimp and it's got your domain name in it, the receiving system will be looking at the trusted senders list. It'll go, oh, look, trust Google. Oh, but we don't have trust MailChimp. And therefore, yes, you get a really good score if you're sending an email from Google to somebody else. But if you're sending it from MailChimp to somebody else, it's not aligned. There's a misalignment. And that's probably why you're getting marked down. And that's why they're possibly not getting through properly.
I find that the same with other people who send via MailChimp, that however much I star them and mark them as important, my Gmail system still puts them in promotions.
Yes,
which I don't look at my promotions very often at all. So I see that happening with other people as well.
Yeah, that's Google's inbound filtering that's partly doing that as well. There's about 3 or 4 different levels of people trying to protect you from emails. Sometimes it's automatic classifications like social, promotions, and puts them into a different tab. Now in a more conventional email system, which doesn't use tags and labels for one great big long inbox, it would deliver into a normal inbox, and you'd create a folder and you would drag things into different folders, and you can sort them quite nicely through things like Microsoft Outlook or whatever. But again, going back to the fingerprint, have a sit down and think about what systems send out as you. So we've got an accountancy, not a cloud accountancy system called Xero. It sends out as us. So on those grounds, I need to make sure that the Xero system is added to our trusted sender list. But we also then use what I'm going to touch on next, which is the fingerprint, which identifies them as them. Okay, so fingerprint. This is the DMARC bit. This is the thing. So what's happening here is that each of those sending systems have a great big massive block of text, which is a sort of a digital fingerprint for that system. So on the right hand side there, it's not very easy to see. It's just highlighted slightly in grey. Is it on the next slide? No, it's not. Is effectively, there's 3 lines of text, which it just looks like gibberish, but in reality, that is the fingerprint that's used for MailChimp. So having the trusted sender list plus the fingerprint for MailChimp, that would probably improve delivery. Okay. So the other thing after that is also to check the delivery. So I sent an email using this system. And again, if you just go onto Google and search for email delivery test, you'll probably find one of these type of systems out there. I am going to embed something on my own email company website in the next week or two. It's not there yet. But effectively, you send an email to that email address. It then comes back and goes, hey, look, you've now got your SPF aligned. You've also got the DKIM bit, and great, you're ready for sending emails, and they should get there. So if you've got your domain access, you can edit your SPF, you can add in your DKIM, and then you can obviously do your tests, and hopefully that helps fix why things end up in junk folders. Is that helpful so far? Cool. Right, so it's about ins and outs. We've just been talking about sending out predominantly and how to fix the sending out bit. The stuff that comes into your inbox or doesn't. Why not? Well, this is the other side of your inbox. And this is what's happening to other people as well. Realistically, 85% of all emails that are sent worldwide, which we touched on 108 billion a day, are junk, are spam. Because of that, it's advertising, it's adult related, it's financial, phishing, fake invoices, identity theft. Microsoft is one of the biggest targets. About 65% of UK businesses are now using the Microsoft 365 system. And again, one of the biggest goals is the identity theft. Now, because of that, this is why these walls are going up. And as these walls go up, and if you're not on the trusted senders list or whatever, you're not proving who you are to the receiving systems, you fall into the category of one of those possibly and get jumped. So this is where you might want to use a third-party system if you're getting a lot of spam coming in. And also at the end of the day, there are emails that are coming in which are fraudulent. And because they're fraudulent, they get you to do something that you wouldn't normally want to do. So open an attachment, pay an invoice, give away a password to something. So what do you do about it? Well, again, this is how an email system, a spam system works. The incoming mail goes in at the top, and it'll have a set of tests. Are you on a trusted senders list? Do you actually have a DKIM record in play? Are you coming from the right country? Are you on a blacklist? So there's some of the basics. If you are and you fail some of those tests, sadly, you'll end up in the spam holding area, or you'll get deleted completely. Otherwise, if you're non-spam, great, you've got delivered. Now, on the right-hand side, there's a little pie chart. This is the email coming into my own business for the early part of March. And so far, as you can see, I've got 60%, which is good stuff. Happy with that. It's got delivered. 20% of stuff coming in was actually newsletters, promotional material. I've got 7% is classified as true spam. And I got 10% of stuff that was completely and utterly rejected because it fitted a sort of global pattern of fraudulent activity from known sources. So we can put something like that in front of your email, which then cuts down on what happens. And then effectively, it's the ability to make sure that you don't fall for something, and that's to train yourself. So on the left-hand side, where it says the phishing test with the Google, let's give it a go. I wasn't going to do this, but I think it might be quite fun. So I'm going to come out of that and hopefully stop that one as well. Maybe not. Let me see if I can just bring it up. Okay, so if you then go to, if you actually did a Google search for this, it would be Google phishing test. Okay, and it's called Jigsaw. So shall we give it a go? Say yes or no in the chat bit. Okay, so to make this more believable, we'll stick a name in there. Let's just call it Bob, and we've got Bob at carshop.com. I don't know. Oops. Don't know who Bob is. Don't know where Carshop is. Who knows? But it looks fairly valid. Okay, so we've now got an email that appears to have coming in. Let's start with a Google Doc email. Is it phishing or is it legitimate? Place your votes now. So if you want to stick something in your in the chat. So it says Luke Johnson has shared a link to the following document. Is it phishing or is it legitimate? Do you want to answer legitimate or phishing? So Vicky, you think phishing. Wayne, you think legitimate. Okay, so we have Helen with a casting vote. Helen's doesn't know. I'm thinking that looks legitimate. If you look at the email where it's come from gmail.com. So let's give it a go. Sorry, Wayne, you would have just let a virus into your system. It was actually phishing. Well done, Vicky. So why do we think that? Because apparently mousing over the thing for a long period, it would have actually shown us that it was an invalid Google document. Okay, next one then. You've received a fax. Is it legitimate or is it phishing? Place your votes now. Teresa's put phishing. Okay, Vicky, we got a phishing. Yeah, good. Phishing, yeah. Helen, what's your thoughts? Phishing. And you're right. And you know why? That's because if you look at the email address there, it wasn't coming from eFax, it was coming from somewhere else. Okay, and also on there, if you hovered over the link, it would tell you it's the wrong place. Okay, next one then. Hey, do you remember this photo? Legitimate or phishing? Phishing, says Teresa. Phishing, 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 phishing. Okay, phishing? Correct, it was phishing. And again, it was because it was the link that was there was taking you to the wrong place. Okay, another one then. Oh, it looks like you're out of storage if you're using Dropbox. Do you want to upgrade now? See if I can zoom in a little bit. Legitimate if you're using Dropbox. Okay. Phishing, says Wayne. Legitimate, says Helen. Okay, let's go for legitimate, shall we? And yes, it is legitimate. That's cool. So, and how do we know that? Again, it's come from the right place, and the link is a good link. Okay, so you've received a new kind of report from the school. Is it legitimate or is it not? And as you can see, we've got a PDF attachment down the bottom here, and it's coming from westmountschool.org. Legitimate, says Teresa. Vicky says, I get this message a lot. Legitimate. Okay, let's go for legitimate then. It was actually phishing. Why is that then? Let's find out. So the address is slightly different from what you'd seen in the past. Okay, and off the back of that, be careful about opening unexpected attachments. Okay, so someone's trying to access your account. Message, Google alert. Legitimate or phishing? This is probably more apparent for Wayne and for Helen, because you're both on the Google platform. Phishing, says Wayne. Legitimate, says Vicky. Let's go legit then. And it was actually a phishing one. Okay. And why was that? The sender isn't, Google.support isn't used. Okay. And the fact that the password reset takes you to something that's not Google. Okay. So again, government-backed attackers may be stealing your password. Teresa's put legit phishing. Which one, Teresa? Phishing, says Helen. Yep. Phishing, says Teresa. Vicky's been clever. She's spotted it's come from the Google.support. So let's go phishing this time then. Correct. Well done. So again, it's the email address that's not so used by Google, and the password is taking you off to the wrong place. So here we go. You've signed up to a travel planning service. So this piece of software wants to access your Google account. Phishing or phishing not? Phishing, says Helen. Phishing, says Vicky. Go on then, Wayne. You're going for legit. Well, since we've got two phishing ones, let's see what happens if we said phishing. Actually, Wayne was right. It is legit. So this is the type of things that you might get if you are connecting a cloud-based service to your existing Google-based email system. So like what you said earlier, Vicky, with regards to, was the Dropbox one valid only if you're using Dropbox? This would only be valid if you're using Google. So similar type of principle. Cool. So we're getting there. So yes, it's coming from a correct place, and it says yes, it's just an allow. So good effort. You got 4 out of 8 correct. So this is a really good little thing just to test your staff with. If you've got people you work with and you just want them to, I get it a lot where people go, oh, I can spot a dodgy email. Well, point them this direction and see what happens. It is an interesting one. We constantly have emails sent to us that sort of try to catch us out. And I nearly fell for one effectively yesterday. the reason for it was we are doing some, you can, at the moment, you can actually get a lateral flow test for your business, and you can apply on, you apply to a government portal. They send you some documents, vice versa. And then I actually got an email that came from the health and safety exec, sort of saying 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, they're doing some random tests in the area for people who have applied for these type of things. Can you be ready? Download these documents ready for their visit. And it was going to the wrong, a dodgy website, and also it hadn't actually come from the HSE. But I was busy planning my day, so my head was in the right place for putting things in diaries and things, and then I got that email. So it's very, very subtle, and it only takes a few people to respond to it. So this is why it's important to train your staff, because the greatest weakness, but the greatest strength, is the person who sits in the chair who clicks on those links. So that's the general overview of emails, how they work, and what we need to do about them. Hopefully that's been useful. And again, hopefully you've got something to think about. Be it, Helen, in your case, continue with Google, because it's doing everything you want, except for putting things into wrong places. And maybe it might be worth considering adding the MailChimp to your SPF record. Vicky, obviously you haven't got an SPF record, and you haven't got a DKIM record, a fingerprint. So that might be worth putting in play, because that might improve your delivery. I think, Wayne, you're in a similar boat with Helen. If you're using the system as it stands, then it's going to work for you. It's just something to bear in mind. If you start using other systems that send on your behalf, get those added into your trusted senders list. So if anyone ever wants to talk a little bit further, more than happy to sit down with a virtual coffee. I'm afraid you'll have to supply your own coffee and cake. But otherwise, more than willing to have a chat and go through a bit further. So that covers the digital cafe part on there. But before we all disappear, what I would love to share with you is effectively what's coming up in Digital Cafe in the near future.
Can I just check, Andrew, that I've understood? So when you said about adding MailChimp to the SPF record, is that going to solve just the emails I get where, or is it going to solve my problem when I'm sending them out?
Adding it to your SPF record, which is your trusted senders list, and you've got Google at the moment. If you add MailChimp, and if you've got an invoicing system that sends out on your behalf as well, or anything else, add those in. Because say you were sending that email to me from MailChimp, my email system would look at the trusted senders list. It'll go, oh yeah, trust Google. And if you haven't got the MailChimp on there, what it would do, it would sort of say, yeah, I'm going to put you into junk. Now, that's going to help your outbound emails. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
What we're trying to do is to pick up with that bit. So Digital Cafe, if you want to know what's happening and what's happening next and what we're doing, then please check it out on Google. So our next one is going to be to use your website to market your business. So this is about making sure that you can improve the focus to the audience and achieve your goals through that, and obviously get leads coming from your website. And the month after, we're actually looking at a new topic to Digital Cafe, which effectively is this Google My Business. And then again, getting people to see those details sooner than later, especially if you're starting to do push services online a bit more, given the circumstances. So some dates for your diaries there. They're in the latter part of April and the latter part of May. And other than that, I just really want to say, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. So again, anything that we've done will be uploaded onto there. So again, there may be some information that would be really helpful to move your business forward. So other than that, thank you ever so much for coming. Hopefully you found that useful, and hopefully see you again at the next Digital Cafe, unless we speak beforehand. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So are you Data Mills on YouTube?
No, if you go onto YouTube and you search for Digital Cafe Network. In fact, since we're still here, let me jump to Google and we'll do it. So if you go to YouTube and dump. So if you look for the digital coffee cup is the bit to be looking out for. And if we put, oops, this is where my computer goes slow.
Some business owners, like-minded people like yourselves, who want to know more about how to fit their business.
I can hear voices. Digital Cafe Network. And there we are. There's the coffee cup. That was the one that we did last time round. And if you would like to know what's happening, click on the subscribe button.
Yeah, I did that. That was why you heard your own voice, because I just found it and clicked on subscribe and it automatically started playing. Sorry.
Excellent. So hopefully there's some helpful and useful comment there. Again, feel free to comment on the videos. Feel free to share the videos. The more it goes out, the better, as far as I'm concerned. So from that point of view, again, thank you ever so much for coming. And hopefully I'll see you again at the next Digital Cafe event, or if not, hopefully we'll speak before then.